Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you low quality content you deserve. And today, as my third and final video on the Lair spree, I'm going to be doing what I consider, if you're going to play pure Lair, probably the most competitive you can get it. And like that is kind of a big statement. But like I put a lot of testing into this. Like all this testing I've been doing has been just for Lair, and this is probably the most powerful it's been. Now there are a lot of weird choices in here, and the side deck can still use a lot of work because there's still so much testing in the side deck I need to do. But there's a lot of themes that were from yesterday's video as well, where I did the hero one. This one takes a lot of ideas from that. So let's get straight into it. Double Diablos, I explained yesterday. The Lair monsters need no explanation because it's a Lair Darkness deck. 2 Malicious, 1 Celestial, and 1 Dynatag. Now, I cut down the heroes a lot, down to 4. This still allows you to use Fusion Destiny more than once and allows you to use Dangerous if you need to. But these 4 I would consider the best. Now, Draw Hand is pretty good, but the problem with Draw Hand is that you are getting the body on your opponent's turn, where if you don't have specifically Ballista Squad or Lilith, it doesn't do anything. So that was kind of a problem. Dark Angel was really good, but the problem I had with Dark Angel is you needed to already kind of be winning for the effect that we were using to work. Like, you already had to be in a winning situation. So the only utility had was, the only time was just like always good was against Sky Striker. So that's why I put it in the side, obviously. But so that's pretty much it. That's why we're playing these 4. Celestial, I said yesterday, was pretty bad, but this card's actually just so good. You're, like I said, you're tributing a lot of your stuff during your opponent's turn. You're like interacting with them. They're throwing cards at you, and you're throwing cards back. And eventually, both of you will be low on cards. So having Celestial in a trap deck where you're setting as much stuff as possible is stupid. It's actually insane. And then Dynatag, that's 1. It allows your Dangerous to beat over anything you need to, and it also makes your Dangerous an Eradicator target. So that's very, very important. It's so important that regardless of how much of a brick this is, even more so than Malicious, like it's too powerful in its applications. Then we got the Predaplants to search Fusion Destiny, and they can search Super Poly in the side deck. Then for the hand traps, so since this is competitively oriented, this is not a budget card. Like, a playset of these is over $300, and I wouldn't buy it, so I don't know why you would, unless you are seriously going to take this to events. But if you have that kind of money, you probably want to play a better deck. But if your heart's stuck on Lair and you have the money, or you have just like the impatience, you can get 3 Phantasmes. And Phantasme is really good, especially with the next hand trap, because the thing about Lair is it's actually just really good against rogue decks. Because since you're tributing all their stuff, they don't get the opportunity to respond to it. Decks that put up like only 1 negation or disruption, this will just fly through their board. It's fine. It's really when you get to the competitive meta decks, this deck just like halts, like it has so much trouble. So Phantasme drawing into the next card, Winter Cherries, is how you combat that, because your deck already does well against the rogue decks and kind of the stun decks many of the times, especially with Eradicator. But like, your deck needs to have something stupid like Artifact Scythe or Winter Cherries to deal with the meta. And Winter Cherries is really cool in combination with Phantasme, especially against Orcust. So Orcust as a deck, they you don't even know they're Orcust until they go into Mermaid, but that is absolutely ideal. So when they go into Mermaid, you can drop Phantasme. That gives you another chance to draw cherries, and when they summon the Nightmare, you could just drop cherries, get Galatea, and now they can't do anything. Like, they can have extenders, but it doesn't even matter because Galatea is what gets the rest of that engine going. So you can't do much of anything. Like your Rusty is almost worthless now. Your Dingirsu's almost impossible to make. It just like puts them so far behind, and it just makes that deck super fair. And when you have Phantasme to deal with it afterwards, that's just like really good. So that's why I'm playing these two. And Phantasme, if it had 100 more attack, it'd literally be the best card in the deck. But its bonus protection is also really good. So yeah, 3 Phantasme, 3 Winter Cherries. And yes, I would play Winter Cherries. I actually think one of its best applications, even if you're going against a deck that this doesn't affect, it's a dark monster, and Allure of Darkness is so important in a deck that doesn't have just this random consistency boost from like terraforming to get a field spell that searches a monster. It doesn't have that. So you actually need to draw your pieces, and it being a dark for Allure is very strong. Then for the spells, we got triple Lair Darkness, triple Fusion Destiny, and triple Allure. Since Dark Angel's not in the main, I don't have Reborn in the main either, because Reborn is kind of like, you can get some back, but you're not doing very much with it because unless it's like one of these guys, it has like no value, and you don't even want to draw it turn 1 because it has no value there, and you need as many of your cards live as possible turn 1. And then for the traps, we got an additional 3 hit traps and permanents. Now, I know this conflicts with Phantasme, but it is a trap, and you need enough traps for Lilith. Yes, this is a hand trap, but you can also just like you can impermanence and then Phantasme if you really need to. You just need it to be a trap. That's the only thing. If it didn't matter, then you would play Valor, but it does matter that it's a trap. Then triple Ballista Squad. It's probably the most universal trap in here. It's an out to mine. It is a way to interact with your opponent. Yes, it's a -1 unless you have Lair, but it is disruption. It is removal, and it works well in combination with Lair, which is why you need it. Then triple Eradicator, the ultimate win condition of this deck. The only deck this doesn't hit is Thunder Dragons. Everything else is super brutal against. I guess Orcust can kind of play through it, but like you have enough ways to deal with Orcust as well. So like hitting a bunch of spells out of hand and just calling it a day is super, super powerful. And then that's it for the main deck. So let's go to the side deck first, because there's a lot of theories I came up with, but there's still a lot of testing that needs to be done. 2 dark kaijus just because they're dark. It's that simple. Not to mention this one's also searchable with Arima. But like that's neither here nor there. You just want it because it's dark, and Allure is super, super important to this deck. Now I would, like, if it wasn't for Cherries needing to be in this deck and the Fusion Destiny needing to be in the deck, you could try Extravagance. But like you need the Destiny heroes and you need the Cherries targets. Like you could draw 2 cards and go +1 all you want, but if you don't draw a win condition, then there was no point. 2 Super Poly, and then a Starving Venom, and a Violet Chimera. This is pretty self-explanatory, especially in Lair. And you can search them with the Predaplants. Triple evenly matched. It's a trap, I guess, but that doesn't really matter the way you use it. But it is super powerful at breaking boards. 2 Storm Duster for all the stun decks. And these last 4 cards are for specific matchups. Now, Dark Angel, I don't know if it's even going to stay in the side deck at all. Like, it might not even be anywhere in the deck later. But, like, this has multiple applications against Sky Striker. And I still really like the utility of just stacking away a draw phase on your opponent while you get, like, an Allure or another Fusion Destiny. Like, I think that's super powerful. And even in testing, where we thought it was win more, like, it was still just super powerful, like, every time. Every time you can resolve Dark Angel, the duel was over. But that being said, like, you need things to be happening for it to work. Whereas if you sided against Sky Striker, you can, like, draw this with Fusion Destiny. And then when you do that, you can just, like, give them their own spell canceller, and then you can just push through all your stuff and then leave this spell canceller up, and they can't do very much about it. And you'll also have ways to like deal with their onslaught. Dark Angel is a really good utility against that deck, and like the stacking of the deck is also super powerful, but I don't know if it's going to stay. I really like it, and I really think it is worth playing, but I don't know if it's truly worth playing at a real like high tier event. And then this is specifically for Thunder Dragons. Thunder Dragons is probably this deck's worst matchup. Going second against them is super difficult unless you draw a hand trap, and even when you draw a hand trap, sometimes they can just play through it, because like there's no right the best Cherries target isn't even related to the Thunder Dragons or the Guard Dragons. It's actually Saryuja. Like that's the best Cherries target against that deck. And even then they can still like play. So like you really need something stupid against that deck. And Crush card is interesting. So yes, they are a graveyard deck. However, none of the stuff they send to the graveyard works on its own. It needs something else to go with it. Like, you need to banish it. You don't just need it in the graveyard and call it a day. But when you Crush card them, what happens is they lose their entire hand. The only 3 monsters this skips over in the entire deck are Jackalope, the Sneck, and Brotar. So 7 out of 37 monsters get to live under Crush card. And then their only real thing that you should worry about is Sekka's Light, because this doesn't affect their next draws. You want to make sure that they don't have a Sekka yet. Like, usually Sekka is going to be the first thing to activate. So once they activate it, then you Crush card them. Or if you're worried about Denko Sekka game 2, you'll still just Crush card them, because Crush card, in most scenarios, ends the duel. Like, they lose 4, 5, 6 cards out of their hand. If they drew from Sekka, they'll lose 7. They'll lose like 6 to 7. Like, they can lose everything to Crush card, and because they don't have ways to trigger it, your next turn you're playing completely unabated, and you can just stack more advantage. You can't do any damage that turn, but that's fine because you're so far ahead. Then you can like summon Diablo, summon more Destiny heroes, summon Protoplant, summon Lilith. You can just gain so much resources from it. It's pretty wild. Like, that's the theory with Crush card, and from the little bit of testing I've done, it has worked that way. And like, Eradicator is useless against that deck, so you might as well like side something else in. And Crush card, it's actually been doing like, this card is bad, but for some reason that deck just can't handle it. So that's pretty cool. And then we got, for the extra deck, we got the 4 Cherries targets. Galatea, Sunlight Wolf, Electromite, and Skulldread. Nothing else is worth putting cherries, cherry-zinging. That was weird. Because, like, other decks, like Spiral and whatnot, or just, like, basic rogue decks, there are other things you can cherries. Like, you can cherries their Borreload, their Boral Sword, you can cherries a Nightmare if like you need to keep Lair up, and they summon 2 monsters. You can just cherries them, hit the Phoenix out of their extra deck, and now they're just still stuck under it. So that's pretty cool. Unicorn, for the Destiny heroes, we got 2 Dangerous and 1 Dystopia. This is a natural Eradicator target. Plus with this Dynatag, it's also a disruption. Then we got Link Spider, Beat Cop, Cross Crusader, Wee Witch, Phoenix, Unicorn, Boral Sword, and Borreload. So that's basically it. I've got 1 replay of this already. I'm not going to show it until tomorrow, but I got 1 replay of this already, and I've been testing matches, and I think this is the best the deck can be outside of a few adjustments and major adjustments to the side deck, because there's about 8 cards I'm happy with in this side deck. So there's still a lot more side decking to be done. But yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And remember, Master Dinnerflex will take your soul.